truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live from New York City, Monday, October 7th, 2019. Sorry, I am a little bit late. A lot late today. Tell you the truth, I'm a little under the weather. I got my water with emergency over here, hoping I'm able to avoid getting sick. I watched my niece last week who had a fever, so I'm hoping that's not why I'm feeling so crappy. I haven't been sleeping well the last few nights, and today I'm feeling pretty cruddy, but the news must go on, and important stories to talk about as well as interviews to show you. So if you want some pity, if you want, I'm totally happy for some illness-related pity. Make sure you press that like button. Remember, every single person needs to press the like button right under the video. YouTube is finding new ways, we're finding out in our research, to suppress this and other independent media channels. So make sure you press the thumbs up button. It's right under the video. Press that thumbs up button so more people could see the live stream. Consider becoming a Status Quo member. We're going to talk about that. And very, 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 very important, follow Status Quo. Oh boy, I forgot to put the screen up. Hold on. Follow Status Quo. We are 10 followers away. 10 followers away from 10,000 Twitter followers on the Twitter, which is awesome. We actually, I don't know, Jen's not here today. She's at the dinner with her family, but I'm pretty sure we started actively tweeting from Status Quo like 3 months ago. So we were more tweeting from my account in the beginning because I had a bigger following. So we started really aggressively tweeting from Status Quo about 3 months ago. So awesome that we're 10 away. If you're not a follower yet, you could be the one that puts us over the edge to that 10,000 Twitter followers. So please go ahead and do that. And again, press that like button. Colin Tooley, our wonderful editor, graphic designer. I've been sick for 2 weeks now, so double the pity, likes, and super chats. Yes, Colin's a trooper. Joseph, who's our new cameraman and editor. I hope the Status Quo sickness is not spread to you, because Joseph is in the super chat, filling in for Jen as well. So. I also give you an exciting update. Yesterday on the Sunday live stream, we passed $77,000 raised in our GoFundMe. So I'm too sick to do the math, but that's less than $8,000 to go till we achieve our ultimate goal of $85,000. So thank you everybody who donated yesterday. That would be, what is that? $777 away from getting to 78,000. So hopefully there's some folks watching today who could pitch in whatever amount you want, $5, $10, $20, all good. So Bernie Sanders obviously had a heart attack last week. The media was respecting his privacy for all but 24 hours before they started getting absolutely hysterical over what is Bernie hiding? Is this a cover-up? Yada, yada, yada. So, first of all, I'm going to say something that some of you might not like, because obviously a lot of you are Bernie Sanders supporters, but I have to be consistent and I have to be true to just being consistent and having integrity. So, if Joe Biden had a heart attack during the campaign trail, most of us would be calling for him to drop out, right? So we can't have a different standard. I don't think Bernie Sanders needs to drop out. I'll explain why, but I can't diminish the fact that it's not a small thing when a 78-year-old man has a heart attack, even a mild heart attack. So although I am personally a supporter of Bernie Sanders, I'm not going to pretend it doesn't matter that he had a heart attack. However, with that said, I think the media is exploiting that heart attack. I think the media is trying to basically take the fact that he had a heart attack. I didn't think it was a heart attack. No, it was a heart attack. His campaign, I don't know what the term is, but his campaign put out the term, and that term is of a heart attack. Jordan, it's not a heart attack. It is a heart attack. It was a heart attack. His campaign put it out. We can't have different facts. If you want, I could get the exact term for you. But he had a myofascial. What did Bernie Sanders have? Because I don't want to argue. Bernie Sanders, myo heart attack. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, I don't have the actual term right in front of me, but Bernie had a heart attack. His campaign is not denying he had a heart attack, so I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with people who want to, bury their head in the sand. Oh, myocardial infarction. If you look that up, that's what a heart attack is. So let's not argue whether he did have a heart attack. You got to take your Bernie goggles off. So, $1.99 in the super chat. However, thank you, RB, $1.99 in the super chat, getting us started. However, even though he had a mild heart attack, I think that the media is trying to exploit that. The bottom line is this. Bernie Sanders might be 78, but Bernie Sanders was literally campaigning for 4 years, nonstop. It's not like he stopped campaigning after the 2016 campaign. He was campaigning on the road to stop the repeal of Obamacare. I covered it. He was out with Nissan workers striking. He was out all over the country. 2017, 2018, before he even started launched his campaign. So this is somebody with a hell of a lot of miles on those tires. He traveled, frankly, in some periods more than President Trump did. So it makes sense that if he was going to have a health-related illness, yeah, it makes sense. It's not necessarily the fact that he's 78. It's the fact that he, frankly, was probably pushing him to the point of exhaustion. You see reporters, including me, that are acknowledge we're exhausted trying to keep up with him, and we're like 50 years younger than him. So I think that the media, it is fair as the media to say, listen, it's got to be monitored. He's 78. He just had a mild heart attack. We're not saying he needs to drop out, but it remains to be seen. We'll have to see how quickly he returns, how busy his event schedule is, if it seems like he's scaling back significantly, if he seems like he's having any physical signs of distress. I think these would be fair things. To say. But, of course, the Washington Post is not a fair outlet. The Washington Post is a propaganda mill. And the Washington Post, essentially, because it's its whole thing in life is to essentially get Bernie Sanders out of the race, prop up Joe Biden, prop up Elizabeth Warren, who they recently did a piece comparing Elizabeth Warren and her selfies to abolitionist hero Frederick Douglass. So they'll do anything. They'll go as low as possible. They'll go underground if necessary to smear, exploit Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Lady Hawk, $4.99 in the super chat. My parents were dead at age 72 and 74, respectively. Yes, I was an orphan at 34. Bernie is in great health. Keep up the great work, Jordan. Why, thank you for the super chat. So let's take a look at the Washington Post's buffoonery, and that's all we could call it, absolute buffoonery. As a reminder, folks, we got 300 people watching already, but only 141 of you, only 141 of you have pressed that like button, thumbs up button right under the video. We need 150 more of you to press that thumbs up button. More people that like, more people that will see the video. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's take a look at how the Washington Post used Bernie Sanders' health scare to basically push their crusade to get him to drop out. Senator Bernie Sanders' admission late Friday that he had suffered a heart attack 3 days earlier invited new scrutiny of the presidential candidate's age, health, and ability to keep up with the rigors of a national campaign. Very interesting that they've never written an article about how Joe Biden can't string together 3 words without stumbling, how Joe Biden is literally forgetting what cities he's in, how Joe Biden literally forgot President Obama's name in his speech, how Joe Biden literally couldn't remember the 2 cities that had back-to-back mass shootings within 24 hours. I don't really see many articles about that from the Washington Post. I digress. Sanders released the video hours after he was discharged from a Las Vegas hospital, thanking well-wishers for their support and promising to return soon to the campaign trail. Quote, "I'm feeling much better," Sanders said, arm draped around wife Jane. But neither Sanders nor his campaign offered details about how serious his condition was, leaving open the question of how soon we would reemerge and whether voters would lose confidence in his ability to serve as president. The episode also brought new attention to a Democratic field that is dominated by 3 septuagenarians, Sanders 78, former Vice President Biden 76, and Warren 70, each of whom would be the oldest president ever to take office. So what's interesting about this? But neither Sanders nor his campaign offered details about how serious his condition was, leaving open the question of how soon he would reemerge and whether voters would lose confidence. Well, what would you like them to say? They've told you he had a heart attack. They told you he's going to be off the campaign trail for a week or so. Do you want the campaign to tell you Bernie's up all night? He's got heart palpitations after the fact. He doesn't know if he's going to be able to, keep up his schedule. You want him to tell you if it was a mild heart attack or a mild to moderate heart attack or a severe heart attack. Use your eyes. The man was out of the hospital in 2.5 days. So I don't know what more. Yes, I think when you're running for president, okay, let me put it this way. In your personal life, if you're not a public figure, your health is your private information. If you're running for president, is Jordan paid by the Bernie camp? No, I'm not. I'm not. If I was, I certainly wouldn't be going live 6 days a week. But thank you for the comment. If he was, if it was a severe heart attack, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be out of the hospital in 2.5 days. If it was a severe heart attack, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I'm pretty sure he'd drop out, right? I mean, you got to put your health first. Somebody who has a mild heart attack and then have stents in, generally could leave the hospital in 2.5 days. Also, the media was basically schwitzing, as I say, that they didn't know immediately that it was a heart attack. Well, maybe the campaign, but more importantly, Bernie Sanders' family is discussing his options. Maybe we weren't in the hospital with him. Maybe they were discussing options before they wanted to relay to the media. It's not like you don't know what was going on for weeks on end. It took 3 days. Do you think if Joe Biden was hospitalized with a heart attack, he would tell anyone even in 3 days? Do you think Donald Trump, if he was hospitalized with a heart attack, would tell anyone, period? I mean, it's buffoonery that they are dwelling on the fact that the campaign was hiding for days, 2.5 days, that he had a mild heart attack. And I'm not a doctor, but also it could have been that initially it was not known that it was a heart attack, and other tests showed it was a heart attack. We don't know. But the point is, victory, no notification. Welcome to being a subscriber of Status Coup and other independent networks where you don't get notified. You don't get, we have people that are subscribed that are telling me they're being unsubscribed against their will. We're working behind the scenes, Jen, Joseph, and I, on figuring out ways to work around this suppression, because this suppression is serious. This suppression is serious. So the Washington Post is basically saying, his campaign is not telling anybody how serious it is. I just don't know what that means. It's a heart attack. He's 78. He's saying he's taking some time off before he returns to the campaign trail. Obviously, his family don't think it's serious enough for him to drop out. So what do you want them to tell you? Then it gets better, though. I think anybody's health is of concern when it comes to the high office, said Jeremy Dumkrieger, chairman of the Woodbury County, Iowa Democratic Party, who supported Sanders in 2016 but is neutral so far this year. Quote, if the person was 40 and was having some issues, I've had concerns about it too. Sanders, but let's move on. Here we go. The campaign's decision to wait 3 days to reveal that Sanders has suffered a heart attack conjured images of Hillary Clinton's collapse in 2016 at a memorial service for the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Clinton, at the time, the Democratic presidential nominee, had been diagnosed with a pneumonia 2 days early, but her campaign did not reveal that fact until many hours after she had fainted. I don't know why it conjures that up for you, because it's entirely different. Hillary Clinton passed out on camera, right? It's a little different than Bernie Sanders asking for a chair to give a speech and then going to the hospital. So yeah, if the front runner of the 2016 race passes out, yeah, I think her campaign should explain that she has pneumonia relatively quickly. If Bernie Sanders just quietly goes to the hospital, and who knows when it was known that he had a heart attack. I mean, I spoke with my dad's friend the other day who had a heart attack. They didn't even know it was a heart attack for days. So this is not, we don't know exactly the minute he knew it was a heart attack. So, and not all heart attacks are created equally. So I'm trying to be fair where I say, okay, a 78-year-old man having any type of heart attack, mild or not, is significant. I'm not going to sugarcoat it that it's not. I can't be a Bernie fanboy. I mean, I would say this about any 78-year-old. But a mild heart attack is different than a major heart attack. But the part about the Washington Post propaganda that really, really gets to me, and it shouldn't because I'm not shocked or anything, is then they put in the propaganda. Then they dropped in the propaganda. Sanders hasn't faced the same scrutiny, in part because he's struggling to gain momentum in the Democratic primary contest. Sanders doesn't have a, quote, strong path to the nomination, said Chris Wilson, a Republican pollster. So it's less of a story all around. It's less of a story. His heart attack is less of a story all around. First of all, I don't know which part of that statement is more absurd and propagandish. That he's struggling to gain momentum. Bernie Sanders just raised more money for more donors, individual donations, than any presidential candidate in history. Let that sink in. Bernard Sanders, $18 average donation, just raised more money than any other politician in history in a 3-month period. $25.3 million from 1.4 million donations. Yeah, struggling to gain momentum in the Democratic primary contest. The polls are what the polls are, but also, as I've talked about, you got to look at each poll with a little degree of scrutiny because they're undersampling young people in a lot of these polls. The overall sample size is very low. And in a lot of these polls, they are only polling, kind of traditional, like very liberal Democrats rather than actually younger progressives. But this is never brought up, and Gallup had a great piece about this. Which Democratic presidential nominee led throughout the primary campaign? Barack Obama didn't lead until May of 2008. John Kerry did not lead until February of 2008. In the polls, of 2004, John Kerry took the lead. Bill Clinton, Bubba, didn't lead until January 1992. Dukakis, middle of February 1988. Carter, middle of April 1976. McGovern, don't know, but very late into that election year. I cut off the top by accident. Humphrey, don't know the month, late into 1968. Kennedy, that looks like middle of January 1960. The point is, most of the people that eventually won the nomination didn't lead until early into the election year. So Bernie Sanders, the Washington Post, let's find a Republican. Let's find some Republican hack pundit to say, Bernie Sanders, he's struggling to gain momentum. Don't worry about the $25.3 million he just earned. Over $10 million more than Joe Biden, more than Elizabeth Warren. Don't worry about he has more volunteers than anyone in this campaign. Don't worry about the fact that he's beating Donald Trump head to head in every state so far, other than like red states like Texas and so on. He's beating Donald Trump in Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, I believe, as well as Pennsylvania. Kind of important states. No momentum, no path to the nomination. Honestly, I got to be honest with you. I believe, I don't know if Bernie Sanders would ever openly talk about it, because if you think they are crucifying him now, just wait if he said stuff like this. I think places like the Washington Post need to be regulated. I think private corporate media needs to be regulated. I'm not talking about like what Trump is talking about. Basically changing libel laws and all these things to basically put a gag order on real journalism. But frankly, the amount of propaganda that comes out from these outlets, usually aimed at one individual, it just so happens one individual, this is propaganda. This is almost like corporate, they talk about state-run TV, like they call RT state TV or Fox News state TV. What about corporate state TV? Because that's what this is. You know what? Bernie Sanders had a heart attack. It would be fair for the Washington Post to say, it needs to be monitored, yada, yada, yada. But then you're then slipping in that he has no path to the nomination, that he's struggling to gain momentum. In what metric is he struggling to gain momentum? Recent poll in Nevada, he was tied for the lead with Joe Biden. Recent polls in New Hampshire, he was competitive. Recent poll in California, he was tied for first, I believe. Recent polls in New Hampshire, he was competitive. Iowa, different polls have said different things, but he's not completely out of it. It's just so unbelievable that the Washington Post would use a heart attack as an excuse to push a false narrative. Now, is Bernie Sanders the front runner? No, he's not. Has he dipped in the polls? He has. Has Elizabeth Warren risen in the polls? She has. I know you don't like it, but I have to be factual. But a lot of the rise of Elizabeth Warren has not truly come at the expense of Bernie Sanders. A lot of Elizabeth Warren's pickups have coincided with Kamala Harris free-falling. Kamala Harris in the Real Clear Politics average right now is under 5%. Excuse me as I Marco Rubio. So, and remember to press that like button. We got 424 people watching. Only 270 of you have pressed that like button. I'm under the weather, but I'm working through it. So press that like button, support me and my sniffles and probable fever, so that we could get more views on this live stream. Let's get the amount of likes up to the amount of viewers. 417 viewers. I need 400 and something likes. Press that like button. It's a thumbs up button right out of the video. Also, remember, we are pushing our GoFundMe. We're still, haven't gotten a GoFundMe donation today. So hopefully somebody could start us off there. 77,233. $5, $10, 20, whatever you got, we'll take. So, the last thing I'll say about this, it's not just the Washington Post, of course. CNN writes a ridiculous piece. How Bernie Sanders' heart attack changes the 2020 race. Oh boy, I'm not reading the whole thing. But he's the only candidate in the Democratic field, but he's not the only candidate in the Democratic field who would be affected by Sanders' heart attack. Well, Sanders at 78 is the oldest candidate in the contest. Former Vice President Joe Biden is 76 and Warren 70. If any of them were elected president next November, they would become the oldest person ever elected to a first term as president. Given that the three frontrunners for the Democratic nod are septuagenarians, the age health question has been a low buzz in the race from the start. But with Biden, Warren, and Sanders keeping schedules that would exhaust this 43-year-old in about a day's time, there's been little to hang those worries on. Now that's changed in a fundamental way. While Sanders and his campaign and his supporters are quick to downplay how serious or not this heart attack was for the Vermont senator, it's hard to get away from the facts. Sanders, a 78-year-old man, had a heart attack that required surgery. While there are lots and lots of people who have this exact experience, most of them are not running for president. And no one disputes that being president or even for it is a hugely stressful job. What's so funny to me about this ridiculous piece? First of all, you wrote a piece saying Bernie Sanders' heart attack changes the 2020 race. According to who? That's just an opinion masquerading as fact. Bernie Sanders, for all we know, could be back on the campaign trail next week, doing 3 events a week, three events a day. But I love how they put in there, that Bernie, Warren, and Biden have been keeping crazy schedules that put this 43-year-old to shame. This is, of course, Chris Cillizza, that hack. Joe Biden is keeping a hectic schedule like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. In fairness, Warren does campaign a lot. Joe Biden goes around the country doing more fundraisers than campaign rallies. Joe Biden does maybe one event a day. And there's many days, because I get the emails, he's meeting with advisors. Joe Biden isn't keeping a hectic schedule. He's basically having himself a little mini fundraising vacation throughout the campaign. So if you want to look at somebody's health, why is Joe Biden barely campaigning? Why is he having more fundraisers? Well, we know why he's having more fundraisers, because he's not getting small dollar donations. That's why his anemic performance, this is his anemic performance from last quarter. Kudos to Joseph for the fantastic graphic. I mean, he's dropped 10 million. 10 million! And by the way, in that first April through June, he raised more money in less time. So he raised less money given more time. And he's doing almost like 3 or 4 big fundraisers a week. And we have a story about one of his recent fundraisers, which was just incredible to me. So, to the Washington Post, here's what I say. Here's what I say to the Washington Post. You're not subtle at all. I mean, generally speaking, the people that read the Washington Post are not like on the bubble potential Bernie voters anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you should be ashamed of yourself. You're basically using a health scare for a politician that your boss, Jeff Bezos, hates and disdains to basically try and weaken his candidacy. I mean, that's not journalism. That's basically like what a super PAC would do. You want to be ethical? You want to be fair? Okay. He had a heart attack. Go speak with doctors about how generally does somebody of his age recover from these things. How would he need to campaign Would he have to scale it back considerably? Do people of his age who have a mild heart attack, how are they 4 years later generally? How are they 8 years later if he's elected president? We'd like to know. Those are fair questions. They are fair questions. But to kind of slip in this propaganda that he's, hey, let me find a Republican pollster. Yeah, because he's going to give you a legitimate quote about Bernie Sanders. Oh, he's having trouble catching on. Oh, it doesn't matter. That's why no one's covering it. No one's covering it. Other than Trump impeachment, all they've been covering is the fact that Bernie was in the hospital. And I showed you MSNBC hysterical freaking out. Well, where is Bernie? What is Bernie? We don't know. They're calling for sirens that the family of the campaign didn't tell them exactly what happened for 3 days, 2.5 days, excuse me. It's preposterous. The whole thing is preposterous. So, we got 445 people watching. 334 of you have pressed that like button. Keep it coming if you can. Liking, that makes a big difference. Thank you. Nancy getting us started in GoFundMe today. $6. We'll take it. Now at $77,239. Really appreciate it. Yesterday, we premiered just some of the interviews Marcus Ely, one of our reporters, did at Trump Stock, which was in Golden Valley, Arizona. Now, you would think Trump Stock, which I just love this. Trump Stock, you would think is thousands and thousands of white old men out there supporting their president. And, love and peace would be in full bloom in Golden Valley over the weekend. Unfortunately, they lost the permit last minute to hold it where they wanted to hold it, which was in the desert. So it got moved to a something called Great American Pizza. And Marcus went out there, braved the elements, because there was a lot of people packed with guns. There was militiamen there. I saw some comments saying, they were unhappy that Marcus didn't push back hard enough or whatever. Well, you want to interview people holding a gun next to you with camouflage? Let's see how brave you are. So I think Marcus did a pretty damn good job, considering. But want to show you, I'm going to show you first a mashup. Of 3 Trump supporters essentially calling for civil war if he's impeached. Then I'm going to show you a longer interview Marcus did with somebody who, I don't know what to say, but batshit crazy is being generous. Jordan, why don't you interview actual Biden supporters? I have. Hi, Cal. Do you follow this channel? I've interviewed Biden supporters out in the field. We're trying to raise more money to go out in the field some more. That's why we're doing the GoFundMe. That's why we're pushing membership. If you're not a member, statuscoup.com/join. When you don't sell out, when you don't take big money from Democratic Party donors, Republican Party donors, big banks, Wall Street, fossil fuel, big pharma, Silicon Valley, kind of expensive to do it the old-fashioned way through you, the viewer. So that's how we're growing. Join us, statuscoup.com/join. Our goal is to get to 1,000 members by the end of this year. And now that Joseph is on board, we have a lot of ideas for more content just for members. We already do some content just for members, but we're going to be doing a lot more just for members. So let's take a look at this mashup, Marcus, with Trump supporters calling for a new civil war.
Imagine worst case scenario, Democrats impeach Trump, and he says, no way, I'm not leaving office. This is a fake Russiagate hoax, and I'm not leaving office. Let's start a civil war. What would you do in that case?
Okay. To me, the reality is Trump's never going to get impeached. That's all a distraction that they're creating to take the eyes off of Biden. That's not what we're talking about. I get that. So I don't see Trump as being impeached, period. But worst case scenario, I'm pretty sure I would be one of the ones. I got health issues, so I'd be more detriment in the front lines, but I'd be one of the ones that back at 110%.
The president has recently tweeted about there being a civil war-like fracture if he gets impeached. What do you, as a Trump supporter, think about that?
I think the Democrats that are raising all the scandals should be tried for treason and hung from the Capitol dome. Pure, flat out, and simple. So if they want to play games, okay, they have violated their oath of office in supporting the president. They need to be hung for treason.
So their oath of office includes supporting the president in all things every time.
Yes.
There can come a time, because this country is fractured. I mean, it's very fractured. That there's going to be brother fight against brother. There can be. I don't see that. That's unimaginable.
Oh man. Oh man. I love it. You know, honestly, in all seriousness, although I'm laughing, this is scary because Trump, who I don't cover a lot, but we definitely wanted to go and go to the desert and speak with Trump supporters to kind of show you what we're up against here. These people are going out to vote for Donald Trump. His whole base is going out to vote for him. And it really matters who the Democratic candidate is, because if you don't have a candidate who's going to inspire the working class, particularly the multi-racial working class coalition, that means black, brown, indigenous, you name it, working people. It's not just white people who work. A lot of black working class people, a lot of brown working class people, and so on. These people see Trump as like a descendant from God, right? So the best part to me was the guy who said, my leg's a little screwed up, so like I wouldn't be on the front lines, but I'd definitely be supporting it. I definitely support the Civil War, though. You know, I'll send a GoFundMe donation or something. Like, oh my God, I can't. I just can't. I can't with these people. So that was a little mashup. We're going to be airing more interviews Marcus did from there. But I want to show you a longer interview he did with one of those gentlemen, because I think it really, really shows the insanity we're up against and the racism that Trump has unleashed. And the delusions and paranoia that Trump has unleashed. Of course, this stuff was already there before Trump. Of course, it was already there before Trump. But the point is, Trump isn't joking. You know, when he kind of wink and a nod, like, people tell me there could be a civil war. That's not a dog whistle. That's a dog bark. And that is to his supporters, get ready. Get ready. Trump is willing. That is who Donald Trump is. He wants to ignite these crazy loonies. And remember, this isn't people aren't reminded of this that much. But while Trump was running as a candidate, he mocked the voters in the Republican Party. Oh, those Republicans, yeah, I'll just throw them the immigration red meat. He knows they're bad shit, and he's preying on that. And yes, somebody said, support Marcus's reporting. The best way to report Marcus's reporting right now, because we have to pay Marcus obviously too, GoFundMe. Or become a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/join. Here is a longer interview Marcus did. And remember, if you have not pressed the like button yet, press that thumbs up button right under the video. That'll get our viewership up, the more people that press the like button. And make sure you press the share button. Share this live stream on all your social media platforms. Here's Marcus, a little bit longer of an interview.
Thanks for watching Status Coup. You are watching our continued coverage of Trump stock with me, Marcus Ely. Make sure you guys become a member, drop a like so this video can get seen, share so this video can get seen. We're not able to get out in the field and do this kind of journalism without your support. Marcus Ely, and I'm here for Status Coup, and I'm here with Jeff Esposito. And you are one of the representatives for the county Republican Party?
Yes, I am.
Also an oath, and also an oath keeper as well, you were telling me?
Yes, I'm an oath keeper.
So can you talk a little bit about what brought you out here to Trump stock, why you're out here supporting, why this is a necessary thing for you guys?
Well, it is necessary. The country is in dire straits if a Democrat gets in power. They're going to turn this place into a socialist country, and then we're all doomed financially, uh, and socially. Yeah, there's issues that only well, Mr. Trump can fix right now. He's doing amazing things.
And he's the only one that can fix these things.
Well, right now he's got the power and he's making moves. He's already fixed the economy. He's building the wall to support our borders. He's done amazing things so far, and he wants to continue. And draining the swamp is very important, and he's been working on that, and he's playing a 3D chess game, doing this thing. He's poking at these guys, and they're doing basically what he wants them to do, and kudos to him.
Okay, so he's doing basically what he wants to do, and there are folks on the other side of the aisle that would turn all of that you said around and say, well, he's doing what he wants to do because he wants to be a dictator. And
Not a dictator. He's not doing what he wants to do. He's doing what the American public really want him to do, which is most of the country. The Democratic Party has turned into a socialist party. They're pushing so far to the left. I mean, look at these programs that they're pushing towards. Let's give free medical care to everyone. And illegals coming in, let's give them everything. From where? Where's this money come from? From you, from me. Excuse me. I worked 45 years to get my Social Security. And you're going to give Social Security to some people that just walked over the border so that the Democrats could have their vote. Because that's what happened in the 60s. Lyndon B. Johnson started to put freebies out there so that he sucked in votes for the Democratic Party. I mean, for real. And it's happening again, even more intensely. And look at these whack jobs. You got Senator Warren running. She's ahead. Hiawatha. She claims she's not a capitalist. Well, she got all her money in the Senate race from all these corporations.
Warren has said that she's a capitalist to her bones. It's Bernie Sanders that says he's a democratic socialist.
Well, she espouses it half the time. Half the time.
The economic argument for her would be that she's a Keynesian capitalist in that she believes that the government should do a lot more spending to create a floor so that way people don't fall through that floor and in turn cause internal rot in your society.
Well, that floor has already been set. You know, the disagreement I have is giving it to people that just walk over the border, that just come in here. And it's just not Latin Americans that are just coming in this border. I mean, people from all over the world knew it's an open border. You can't go through the Canadian border. Even you and I are stopped. You know, they have a strong border. Why? That's what we need. We need a strong border.
So, I think on Canada though, I think that you can get dual citizenship with them, and they let us in, just willy nilly, with Canada. But like, it's complicated to get citizenship. Is kind of hard, but you can just like. Romney, I believe Mitt Romney, or not Mitt Romney, Ted Cruz was supposedly born in Canada.
Right, exactly. And if he was born in Canada, I don't really know why he was allowed to run for president. I mean, one of the rules were that you're supposed to be a natural citizen, you know, so that's kind of bizarre. But in Canada, because I know I tried to go to Canada, and I couldn't get there. You have to have, you know, so much economic stability, talents that they want.
They also have universal health care for all of their citizens.
Sure, and I have understood that it's not as good as ours. It's not as good as ours.
I believe
I have I'm on a program called Access, and I can go and get taken care of in world class facility. So it's out there. It's out there. But it's not, to me, if you're an American citizen, or if you're going to come over the border, come over the border with the idea that you're going to become a citizen. You know, be a citizen instead of being separate. You know,
I've actually talked to people that have been here for like 20, 30 years and are just now getting their citizenship because like the process is so incredibly hard.
it's backed up. It is backed up, and that needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed.
So you think that
I know that you have to pass a citizenship test. Okay, and it has questions about, you know, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and stuff like that. Now, I just saw a YouTube video where a patriot was on the beach in California, and she was asking the same questions, and they go, "Oh, we never learned that," you know, and that person was born here. You know, I mean, why?
why do we make it so hard for them to become legal?
Maybe that test needs to be changed, but or simplified, just simplified.
It's not just the test, it's also the paperwork. Like, even if you decided to stay outside of the country and come in legally, the process is like something stupid like 18 months just to get the first parts of paperwork in before you can even get in.
Right, and I think that's probably due to, you know, labor hours and manpower. You know, if you have, let's say we brought in 1 million immigrants, I think, last year. I mean, legally. Can you imagine the paperwork? 1 million without the illegals coming in?
What about the refugees from the countries that like were in war and like Syria, like the war in Syria that like mostly we're doing?
I have seen this.
We took 1,800 people.
That these refugees, just look at France. They come in with their ideas, their own ideas. You know, Islam's a beautiful religion, but wacky Islam is not. I mean, right-wing extremists, just like Christianity, anything. It's like a road. You got a road, and there's ditches on the sides. Stay in the middle of the road. You go off to the right, you're in that ditch. You go off to the left, you're in that ditch. They bring in their own ideas. Sharia law, you know, let's mutilate women. You know, let's not pay attention to America's laws and make our own laws. There's cities, there's places in Detroit, in parts of Detroit that you can't go. It's called no-go zones because they have their people, you know, stopping Americans from walking around. They're creating their own little enclaves. We can't have that in America. I'm in Kingman, Arizona. We have a mixed, a pretty good mixture, and everyone cares about everyone. I mean, that's what we need. We don't need the. It's not about church. It's about soul, you know. But as far as people coming in and getting free stuff, and refugees, my research has shown that the refugees come in and they just take over those areas and they do just things that you and I would our minds would be blown away.
Okay,
You know?
So you keep talking about free stuff. So I want to ask you, what about, I guess, the argument, since you're against the you're saying the Democratic Party is socialist, so the socialist argument against what you're saying would be that it's not socialism it's not socialism in America for poor people, but there is socialism for the rich. We have the Jeff Bezoses of the world that make more in like 30 seconds than their employees make in multiple years. And like this guy gets a divorce from his wife, and his wife that he divorces from in like an lopsided divorce in his favor, and she's still the 22nd richest person on the face of the planet.
Correct. There's definitely a disparity, but how could anyone fix that? I mean, you are working, and your idea of working is to gain levels as you age, and you gain, and then you pass it on to your children. That's always been the idea of America.
Well, again, the argument that they would make would be that they would say that Jeff Bezos makes all this money, but his employees work a lot harder than him. They have to pee in bottles in some cases because they don't want to take a break, and they're making chump change. And then he just got shamed into paying his employees a livable wage. So it's like the idea is that they create that wealth, and he didn't create that wealth, and he's reaping all of the benefits.
I understand that. I worked for a Fortune 500 company called Praxair for most of my life, and I was a Republican, independent Republican, and I still, when it came raise time, went to CEO Pay Watch, printed out my CEO's pay, and put it on the bulletin board, saying that each worker will have to work 21 years for that year. And, ain't fair. Oh, and they said, oh, he's the creator of the money. Can I swear? I say bullshit. He ain't no creator. I'm creating. I just made these gases that are $25,000 a cylinder to send out to around the world. So I made it. So I need a raise. The workers do need raises. We don't need unions. Unions suck the money away. And they haven't been very good.
How are the employees supposed to get that change? And how are you going to get that change without unions?
We have to actually be able to have a change in this country through legislation. But legislation saying that, that's a very, very tough question. The solutions. Well, a solution would be to put me in charge, okay? And then I would say, this is what's happening, and it'd be right. But right now, you can't have a disruption that would cause chaos. And this election, the other side, the Democrats, are spewing stuff that will cause chaos.
Hold on. Speaking of chaos, because I want to hit this point real quick. And you are an oath keeper as well. So recently on Fox News, someone said that impeaching the president will result in a civil war-like fracture, and then the president, of course, retweeted it. If they impeach the president, what do you think is going to happen as an oath keeper?
If they impeach the president, well, Pence would take over.
Let me put it this way. Let's make it even worst case scenario here. Trump refuses to let go of the office, and he says, civil war, this is a witch hunt, I'm tired of it, let's go.
Well, first of all, I know that wouldn't happen. I mean, why would he go that far? He's got $1 billion, but uh, there can come a time, because this country is fractured. I mean, it's very fractured, that there's going to be brother fighting against brother. There can be. I don't see that. That's unimaginable.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Sorry. I know that was a little long. I'm hoping your brain cells are not too scrambled at this point. But felt I had to show the whole thing so you see what we're dealing with here. That guy kind of reminded me of like a older right-wing version of the dude from Wayne's World. I don't know if anyone else saw that. Great reporting from Marcus out there. We're going to have more interviews from Trump stock if your brain can handle it. Keep it coming if you can in the GoFundMe. Want to thank Mike, just pitched in $20 in the GoFundMe, so we're now at $77,259. And obviously, every story is different. We're not going to be spending money each trip to go interview moronic, racist, Confederate Trump supporters. But that we do want to show the country, the world, who the Donald Trump supporter is. We think that's very important. That's something we could do that others are not doing. While others cover impeachment and Ukraine Gate and all this stuff, we want to show the true face of this bigotry, stupidity, and ignorance. Because make no mistake about it, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to defeat Donald Trump. It's not at all. So, from trying to defeat Donald Trump, and remember, we're rocking that GoFundMe. We're also trying to grow our membership. Membership is how we go for the long haul. So if you're liking this original reporting, sign up as a member, statusquo.com/join. From a story that is about Trump to the person who would almost 100% lose to Donald Trump. That's Joe Biden. So, I always say we live in the United Corporations of America, of course, so I'm not stunned at all that obviously the Republicans are corrupt, the Democrats are corrupt, but at least, I got to give Hillary Clinton credit in one regard. At least she, tried a little bit to be sneaky. At least she didn't, flaunt the corruption. She tried to hide it. She didn't want to release those Goldman Sachs speeches. She didn't want to full transparency out there about her basically bending over backwards and forwards for Wall Street banks. She wanted to have that progressive talk and keep that stuff to the side so nobody could see. Joe Biden, he don't give a damn. Joe Biden does not give a damn. He is very, very happy to be openly corrupt, and he really doesn't care. He doesn't care if anyone knows it. So, I was reading this article, and I just, I don't want to say I was stunned, but I'm just stunned that this isn't a bigger scandal. But, of course it's not a big scandal because the media doesn't see anything wrong with this. In an article talking about Joe Biden and how he's been responding or not responding to Trump's attacks on he and his son Hunter, obviously, the wealthy plutocrat donors are shook. So, to try and soothe their sugar daddies and mommies and those big dollar Wall Street banker donors, Mr. Biden's campaign manager, Greg Schultz, acknowledged some of those problems in a briefing for Democratic donors at Morgan Stanley's New York office last month. Mr. Schultz assured the group that they had a path to the nomination that depended on winning South Carolina, the fourth primary state, and then scoring big victories in the Super Tuesday primaries in March. Here you have a campaign talking about restoring the soul of America. Here you have a campaign calling Joe Biden middle class Joe, union guy Joe, And as the president is just hammering him day in and day out and putting these ads out with with Biden and his son standing with the Ukrainian gas guy and all these things, the Biden campaign tries to basically, stop the girl from breaking up with you, when your girlfriend or your boyfriend, like, you're trying all the stops to keep them. Tries to soothe these shook bankers and hedge fund managers and real estate executives and oil men and women and Silicon Valley people and whoever the hell was in that meeting at the offices of a big bank, Morgan Stanley. Am I in the Twilight Zone, or is there something very corrupt about this? And what is more scandalous? The fact that Biden's campaign is basically having behind the scenes, massage therapy with their donors to make sure they don't jump ship at the offices of a big Wall Street bank? This is unbelievable. But of course the media doesn't care. The New York Times just wrote it into the story like it's just a regular Tuesday in America, where a presidential campaign is having its briefings and strategy meetings with its puppet master donors who basically buy the government and sell you down the river. These are the true, Joe Biden is working for the public good. The public good of the plutocrats funding him. The public good of the plutocrats that will then direct him if he's president. And by the way, Elizabeth Warren might not be doing that yet. She's taken a little time out from these big dollar donations and these big dollar fundraisers during the primary. But she's already said, well, in the general election, what can you do? We can't unilaterally disarm, we're told. Can't unilaterally disarm. Thank you. $5, Kevin, in the GoFundMe. We're now 77,264. Keep it coming if you can. So I think this is all corrupt. And I hope, because I've said in this next debate, first of all, obviously the most important thing is Bernie healthy? And just for an update, because I didn't see this when I did that segment on Bernie, apparently he is getting healthier. This is Bernie and Jane walking today. Let me give you a listen.
Right? How are you feeling, Senator?
I feel very good, thank you. When can we see you back on the trail? So, getting back to work a little bit right now. But mostly what I'm trying to do is, I used to walk a good distance every day, and I got out of that habit. I'm trying to get back into it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. All right? Okay.
See you guys. Thank you so
Got a
much.
hat
Have a
on.
good day.
Looks good to me. That was today in rainy Vermont. So I think Bernie Sanders, if he's feeling well in this next debate, Bernie Sanders needs to go in with an axe, figuratively speaking, not a real axe, because there's going to be 12 people on stage. If they're lucky, they will have 30 seconds, 40 seconds to answer, maybe less to respond. So Bernie Sanders needs to get in there, and I want him to drop the elbow on Joe Biden. Right now, yes, Bernie Sanders needs to differentiate himself with Elizabeth Warren, but I don't want him to see, it will backfire if he's aggressive towards Elizabeth Warren. He can be aggressive at Joe Biden, and I'd like to hear Bernie Sanders say, hey, Joe, were you talking about the middle class with your donors at Morgan Stanley's offices last week? Were you talking about how to repair unions with your donors at Morgan Stanley's offices last week? Were you talking about the fact that, the UN says 12 years, probably now that the Amazon's on fire, probably closer to 8 to 10 years left of a, habitable planet? Is that what you were referring to, Joe? Thank you for the super chat. Mark Mulroney, to you, is that, I always get it confused. I think that's £2. Look at Sanders' new ad by 0RF. It has 5 million views. Yeah, I played that last week. Unbelievable ad. If I had the money, man, woo, that guy would be on this team. That was a great ad. But I think Joseph, you wait. Our new cameraman editor, I think he's going to edit some really great stuff. He's working on some things for us in the background right now, actually. So, but that was an amazing ad. Yeah, I played it last week. Really, really great. So, Bernie needs to drop the living hammer on him because sadly, and it just doesn't make sense, it defies logic, Joe Biden has a lot of supporters making $50,000 or less. Joe Biden has a lot of supporters that just have high school degrees. That is the working class. So those voters are up for grabs for Bernie Sanders. But those voters don't know that while Joe Biden pretends to be middle-class Joe, while Joe Biden pretends to be like a big champion of unions, he's playing footsie with his donors at the offices of a big Wall Street bank, which is beyond corrupt. But because we live in a corrupt country with a corrupt media, with pretend journalists, because we live in a country with corrupt everything, that's not even, nobody, blinks an eyelash. Nobody blinks an eyelash at the fact that Joe Biden is meeting with donors at Morgan Stanley, which is absolutely disgusting. Want to know something disgusting? I don't cover her much because, who cares about Amy Klobuchar? Let's take a look at what Amy Klobuchar had to say about canceling student loan debt.
Don't agree with these policies, and I also think that they know that they most likely won't go through because they don't make any sense when you really take down the veneer and get them off a bumper sticker and start looking at them, but they just keep promising it, and I just don't agree. I actually don't agree because I think it's not their best policy. They may be bold ideas, I think they're bad ideas, and there's a better way to do this.
So if they know it's not going to go through, then why promise?
Because people like it. They like to hear that they're going to get everything free, right? They like it. That's how Andrew Yang started his speech at a debate. It was about giving people free $1,000. So, it is, and that was from his campaign directly. So that is a lot of what the discussion is right now. And I think people know that we've got to make the economy work better for them. And so to me, this isn't necessarily about a free college or a free degree. It's about how can you help people afford the education that they want on the path they want and have it fit with our economy.
I don't know what's more amazing about that. How unbelievably wrong she is, or how at the end, she really fit with our economy is code. It's a nice way of saying. Fit with our capitalist class. Make sure our capitalist, plutocratic, vulture capitalists with these big loans strangling young people and frankly older people's necks, make sure they get paid. That's what she's saying. That's what it means, fits in our economy. Because fits in our economy means follow the money, Lebowski. We cannot take away these loans because then my donors, my masters, my banking friends, my hedge fund friends, my mutual fund friends, all these will not get paid. Because I don't know what Amy Klobuchar is thinking. Can you imagine for a second if you said to a person in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, how would you become a more productive member of our economy, since she used the term our economy? Can you imagine if you give them a choice, if we just get rid of the debt you owe, or, have some different plan that's more complicated, like you could pay it back, debt-free college or whatever the hell that means. We could stack your loan payments back in more reasonable time periods, blah, blah, blah. How would you become a more productive part of our economy? You would not find one sane person or one mentally well person who would not answer, I'd be a lot more productive if I didn't have to, if this could just go away. So when she says it's a bad policy, what part of it makes it bad policy? Because the banks were given free money. Yeah, they say, oh, they paid it back, so it wasn't really free. Yeah, well, it was never really reported that it was actually $21 trillion given to the banks, not 750 billion. And by the way, Jill Stein, credit to Jill Stein and the Green Party, Jill Stein ran on this in 2016. You could do, and there are reputable progressive economists who have said this, there is not a more powerful plan, even beyond Medicare for all, to jolt the economy than canceling all student debt. You would have more investment, more money going back into the economy, because people could then breathe. People wouldn't have to spend hundreds or in some cases $1,000 of their monthly income on paying back loans. They would be able to go out to eat. They would be able to buy new things, maybe take a vacation once in a blue moon, be a productive member of the economy rather than a big part of their paychecks going to pay debt. That what did that debt do for them? They're living paycheck to paycheck even with that debt, or they're working 2 to 3 jobs even with that debt. So what is she talking about? And also, this is a Democrat. She's using Ann Coulter language. Oh, people just want free stuff. This is what the corporate Democratic Party establishment is: right-wing Chamber of Commerce Republicans who are a lot nicer to immigrants and down with, women, you do what you want with your body, identity politics all the way, trans people, go wherever you want in a bathroom. All these things are good. I'm down with the social issues, and the Democrats are better on social issues than Republicans, but social issues are not what affects your wallet. Social issues are not going to pay the bills to make sure you don't get evicted from your apartment. So that's not enough to just be better on social issues. But with right-wing pretend Democrats here, because these are not Democrats, these are Republicans, okay? Real Democrats are in the FDR breed, like Bernie Sanders. So, and by the way, a lot of people don't know this about Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar, she actually, I think while she was a senator of Minnesota, there was legislation to basically remove frozen pizza from the vegetable category. And that would have it pulled out of more of our school cafeterias. Frozen pizza, very popular in school cafeterias all around the country. Also pretty damn bad for your children. And health groups were trying to push to get the sauce in frozen pizza removed from the vegetable category. Oh, Amy Klobuchar, she fought to have that frozen pizza remain as a vegetable. Couldn't have had anything to do with one of her top donors in Minnesota being a frozen pizza company. This is who I want to hear about the economy, somebody who basically doesn't give a damn about our children's health. Think about the obesity problems in this country, health problems in young children because of the crap they eat. Well, Amy Klobuchar, as a senator, fought against frozen pizza being removed as a vegetable. So this is who we're talking about. And I'll probably never cover Amy Klobuchar again because, honestly, who gives a damn? So I'll end today with another in the field interview. You might have not seen it. I posted it earlier, but unfortunately, YouTube is not notifying people even when we post videos. So half the time, people don't even know we've posted a video. So unfortunately, you got to check back throughout the day. So we usually start posting videos around 10 a.m. Eastern. That would be 7 a.m. Pacific. Usually start posting videos around 10 a.m. We usually space it out a little bit. Like we post a video at 10, then we wait an hour and a half, 2 hours, post another video. So if you're not getting notifications, just know, maybe check back every hour and a half, 2 hours. There will be a new video on the channel. I know it's a pain. I wish we could depend on YouTube to notify you, but YouTube, as I like to call it, FewTube, they're not down with that. So I want to air one of the interviews we did in Newark, New Jersey this weekend. Joseph and I went there. Joseph did a great job. We're going to have a longer mashup video. That's the police coming for YouTube for screwing this and other channels. We're going to have a longer video with all of the stuff we did there just for members. So sign up at statuscoup.com/join. Again, statuscoup.com/join, and you'll get the whole mashup. I think it's going to be almost like a mini doc, over a half hour of footage from our reporting from the Newark water crisis. But here's an interview I did with Anthony Diaz. Anthony Diaz is a co-founder of the Newark Water Coalition. If you're unfamiliar, Newark, New Jersey, predominantly African-American community, predominantly poor, very similar, demographics to Flint. Shocker, lead crisis in the water. Shocker, the city and the state are saying, oh, it's fine with a filter. Shocker, people still can't get enough bottled water. Shocker, they're canceling free bottled water this week because testing shows that 97% of homes are fine with a filter. Problem, majority of the city doesn't even know you can go get a filter. Most of the city doesn't know how to apply a filter, and they're lying because, as in Flint's case, filters do not stop all lead. Filters go bad in hot water. Most of the residents don't even know how to put on a filter. Filters do not stop lead over 150 parts per billion. And in the case that filters stop lead, they breed bacteria, so you're fixing one problem while creating another. Of course, none of this is communicated to the residents. None of this is communicated by the media, because the media is just stenographers for the city. And I told this to Joseph when we were out there on Saturday. This is like deja vu, because I'm seeing the same exact playbook that I saw in Flint. I've been to Flint 14 times since 2016. I'm seeing the same exact playbook in Newark. Let me show you the interview we did with Anthony, and we'll talk on the backside. Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup here at St. Lucy's Church, Newark, New Jersey. Here with Anthony Diaz. You're with the Newark Water Coalition. I've enjoyed your Facebook videos and activism. So behind us, they're unloading a massive water truck here at the water distribution. And you've been not only dealing with the logistics, but also kind of fighting the city, the state a little bit. From your words, I'm seeing a little remnants of what I saw in Flint. The city kind of knew about this before they told you residents. Now they're throwing out everything's dandy with a filter. Talk to me about what's fact versus fiction, because to me, I know that these filters do not stop all lead. Most residents aren't even getting enough bottled water. Many have been turned away. What are you guys experiencing?
There's a lot of moving pieces to that. So first, the city was only giving out 2 cases of water every week. They went to 4 cases every 2 weeks. Now on Tuesday, they're going to stop water distribution completely because they say, hey, the filters work, even though they have a 3% failure rate. So, you look at those numbers and you're like, oh, what's 3%? But 3% of 40,000 is a lot. It's a big number. It's too much to gamble on someone's life, but we see that's what the city's doing. So we're not going to slow down. We're actually ramping up our water distribution. We're expanded to 1 church already, and we're going to try to do 2 more by next week. So as long as people keep donating water, we're going to still give it out. I think the other thing to remember is the city is like, hey, we've been active since 2017, but that's not true. They haven't alerted the people until 2018. And the mayor knew about this since, I would say, January or February of 2018. So it's not like it's a new problem. It's not like, it's his fault. But the thing is, the problem is here. It's at his doorstep, and he's not being a leader. He's not stepping up to the plate. He's making excuses for everybody. And one of the things, he wants to, break this connection between Flint, but he's using the same playbook. And it's a problem because resources are not making it into the hands of the people. And that's what we really care about.
I should also toss in, it goes before 2017.
Oh, yeah.
They found lead in schools when Cory Booker was mayor.
Yeah,
and some of these pipes, by the way, in Newark, from the 19th century, the 1800s, some of these service lines that carry the water. So another thing that they don't mention, because a lot of this is cherry-picked science, the water filters that they've given to Flint, to East Chicago, Indiana, to other places we've been, they might stop lead, but they breed bacteria, and they go bad quickly. And a lot of the residents don't know how to put them on properly. So you're basically, like you said, gambling with people's lives when the filters go bad. If the lead is over a certain limit, the filters go bad in hot water, and it could breed bacteria.
Yeah, so one of the things is people are so focused on the lead, they're not focused on anything else. And that's another problem, because we know if you look at the EPA or the DEP report, there's so many contaminants in the water itself, but lead is the hot button issue. Lead is what people focus on. But we just want to provide clean water. We know bottled water is not sustainable, it's not the answer, but it definitely helps people rather than them having nothing. And we feel like that's what the city does. We want people to err on the side of caution. We tell people all the time, unless you have a result from a science lab saying that you don't have lead in your home, don't assume that you're safe. Like, that's not the way to go about this.
And also talk about the actual water testing, because we found in Flint in particular that the state was basically cooking the numbers to they were flushing residents' lines right before testing, this and that. So I'm not trying to fearmonger, but how do you even know the testing that they're putting out is credible if they're not testing the entire city and they are flushing the lines before a lot of the testing?
And we've seen that. We've seen that here in Newark. We've seen the city has come out with soiled bottle samples to take clean water samples. They'll tell you to flush your water before they take the sample. They have residents have been backed up for 3 months, still haven't seen a result. So the city's like, oh, we're doing everything it can, but they're not. And that's the biggest thing. That's they don't execute on a high level. They have these programs in place. The programs are not making it to the people. And it's like, for the media out there, they're really focusing on this narrative of oh, what about the families? But what about, could this have been prevented? How did this happen? Why did this happen? Why does this happen in our communities? Why does it happen under this kind of leadership? So
our community, meaning Newark, Flint, like many other majority African American, impoverished.
Yeah, black and brown communities. And oftentimes I say, if we can't get this right, if we can't get clean water right, how do you get unemployment? How do you get crime right? How do you get education right? There's so many problems here. And to me, this is a simple thing. It's 2019. We have the most knowledge available in any point in humanity. And we have to get bottled water to people? That doesn't make any sense.
And we're talking about the city, but you got a Democratic governor, Phil Murphy, done some good things in some areas, but why is the city cutting off water on Tuesday? And why isn't the state stepping in? As far as I'm concerned, like in Flint, until all of those pipes are changed, why is it on the city or the state to provide bottled water?
And that's what we see. So for us, one of the comments I made about the situation is, again, you're assuming that everybody has a filter. Not everybody has a filter. 2, you're assuming that everyone who went to a distribution site knows about this problem. Still, that's not the case. 3, the education is not being done. And we agree with you as well. It's don't cut this program off, expand it, give people what they want. And for us, this is what, a $3 case of water? You're telling me the city can't afford that? In January, most of the city officials gave themselves a $50,000 raise. So when they talk about money, I'm like, no, that's absurd to me. It's like you're playing these games over a $3 case, over a $30 filter, when you're harming generations here in the city of Newark. We're never going to be the same.
Well, I'm from New York, so I don't know Jersey that well, but I could venture to guess if this happened 20 minutes down the road in Livingston, they would not be cutting off bottled water. Probably it wouldn't have happened in the first place, but Livingston, Montclair, some of these wealthier, predominantly white areas, they wouldn't be nickel and diming it.
Yeah, I think that's true too. And what I think is there is a different way that those city officials talk to their populace. They don't sermonize, they don't fluff the issues. They're like, hey, here's the problem, this is what it is, we're gonna fix it. Here it's like, oh, let me, get up there, let me preach, let me talk about how there's outsiders coming in and things like that. But what burns me up is again, resources are pouring into this city, give them to the people. Don't hoard them, don't minimize this issue at all. make sure that everyone's being safe, make sure everyone's erring on the side of caution. And we're not seeing that from the city. And that's the biggest issue.
What's interesting to me, the mayor, actually, I think he went on Democracy Now! He said that the NRDC is part of the bourgeoisie. He's not so friendly to the activists. He said, yeah, I'll talk to anyone, but you guys have shown, you've been reaching out to his office since September, no response. By the way, that NRDC, who's part of the bourgeoisie, sued the state of Michigan and is responsible for getting $97 million to Flint to change those service lines. So I don't know about that. But what has been the communication? Because it seems like the mayor on TV programs is saying, I'll talk to anyone, but they just kicked you out. They just kicked you and other activists out of a meeting about the water.
Yeah, so we went to the state of the city and we tried to remain calm. We tried to listen. But again, it was all nonsense. It was him defending his policies. And so we got a little upset. We started calling him out. And then he says, I'll meet. And I'm like, no, we've talked to your office for a month. When I call City Hall, they know who I am. And they'll hang up or they'll try to sidestep me and do all these other things. So for us, it's very disingenuous when he says he'll meet, because we're like, we can help you. We're doing the work. We're filling in the gaps where you're falling short. Maybe you don't know that your programs are falling short, but he doesn't want to hear it. It's funny, we met with Cory Booker's staff. We met with Congressman Donald Payne. And, I've had several interactions with Baraka before. And it's all these politicians are so thin-skinned that they can't handle criticism. It's like, I'm doing the best I can. No, you're not. If you were doing the best I can, I wouldn't exist. These volunteers wouldn't be here trying to stack this room up full of water. If they were doing everything the right way, it's like, then why? Why are we here? Why are we servicing 300 families a week? Why are we expanding to different churches? They're not doing everything they can. They're not doing the right thing. And that bourgeoisie argument, because he likes to pretend to be this fake radical, when you make over $130,000 a year, you're not part of the proletariat anymore. You're not part of the working class. When you throw on your suits and you meet with these developers and you talk about giving $5 billion to Amazon, it's a wrap for you. You don't have any commonalities with us anymore. When you're out here nickel and diming over bottles of water, you don't care about our people. All skin folk and kinfolk. And that's what it is.
I want to ask you, because an untold story, particularly in Flint and other places, when there's a disaster like this, there's dollars to be made for the capitalists. So they just put out a loan for these service lines, and there's bonds being issued by Essex County to basically get money up front to change the service lines. But who's going to end up be paying for these bonds? Who's going to end up paying for the bonds that went out to change the service lines in Newark? Because in Flint, water prices have gone through the roof, water rates, taxes go up to pay for the bonds. So I don't know who the bondholders are, but it looks like there's some capitalists that are going to make money off this.
There are definitely going to be some people that make money off of this. What we've seen is even people with our that have tried to reach out to our organizations, they're like, hey, would you like to endorse our filters? And we're like, dude, you're trying to make money off a crisis? This is crazy. You should be giving these filters for free. We don't believe in any of that as well. We know that Essex County owns the bond, and this is another way that the county or the city of Newark can be beholden to the county. And what you see is a lot of moving pieces in terms of the dynamics of the Democratic political machine in Newark, in the county, in the state. That's why Governor Murphy hasn't declared a state of emergency. That's why Roz will defend him. That's why, Joey D rushed to his aid, because he knows that there's some monetary gain in this. People don't do things at that level out of the kindness of their heart. Whereas us, the true volunteers, the activists, we do things because we see injustice and we know we have to err on the side of caution and be right. What's right is right.
And what about, I think I know the answer, but I have to ask. Forget the Republican Party, they don't care. You hearing anything for the Democratic Party nationally?
No, they just had a convention in Atlantic City. And again, it's like, because this issue is so political, you have nonprofit organizations that are unwilling to touch this. You have NGOs that are unwilling to touch this. So a lot of people are like, well, why don't you go 501(c)(3)? And we're like, what has the 501(c)(3) infrastructure done for us here? They jumped on the bandwagon after the EPA got involved. We've been organizing around this issue for the last 10 months. When no one was, cared about this issue, the Newark Water Water Coalition was giving out filters. When no one cared to show up to a meeting, we were hosting teach-ins. When no one wanted to, do these water distributions, we were doing it. So it burns me up that you have all these people with resources that can do great things, but are unwilling to do it.
Last question. We see in a lot of communities, once the truth gets out that you guys have been exposed to this poison, people start to wonder, well, maybe that's why my kid's been acting this way. Maybe that's why my sister or my brother-in-law had a cancer at an earlier age with no family history. Are you guys seeing any health issues here? Is the community starting to wonder about issues that have popped up over the years? Could it be because of lead?
Yeah, so we have a lot of teachers in our organizations that have hey, there's been a recent uptick in IEPs, individual education programs. We've seen a lot of an uptick on kids with ADD or behavioral issues. When you look at the city of Newark and the homicide rate, the crime rate, and you're like, okay, is there a correlation between the lead that's been, in our system and the violence that's going on in the city? So people are starting to ask those questions. But again, I think, what I tell people is when you give an interview, bring those up. Because what we need is the world to start asking those questions. We need the country to start asking those questions. Because once they start putting pressure on the administration, they can't afford to lie anymore. They often tout these reports or these studies, but they don't have the evidence to back it up. And so anywhere else in the world, can you make a claim and not have the evidence to back it up? It's just upsetting.
And last question, when are you running for mayor?
I'm not going to run for mayor. A lot of people ask. I have considered it, but again, you get caught up into the electoral politics, and then what? I'll end up like him, and that's never going to be me. I have too much integrity.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
That was Anthony Diaz with the Newark Water Coalition. Really, really cool guy. And what's interesting that you don't see, and I guess I didn't see, until you go in the field, because I learn when I'm in the field too. It's not just the day of water distribution. People like Anthony and another young woman I was speaking to that will air the interview tomorrow, they're working every single day to organize donations, set up logistics for delivery, because it's not just the church that we interviewed him at. They're bringing water to public housing units. They're bringing water to other places. So these are volunteers. They're not making any money. These are volunteers putting in their time for their community and to make sure seniors and children and just their family, friends, and neighbors are healthy. And why I cover this a lot and why we'll continue to cover it as much as we can. I mean, there's so many places with water problems. We could only be in so many places. But why I cover it this much is because I think that backdrop behind Anthony and I, they had 72,000 bottles of water. 72,000 bottles of water at this distribution site on Saturday. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more scenes like that in America. The media wants to fixate on Ukraine and Russia and all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I've said what I think. I do think Ukraine Gate is scandalous, whereas Russia I thought was much to do about nothing and nonsense. So I think there is things that need to be covered as far as Trump and Ukraine and trying to basically bribe a foreign official to open an investigation on your political opponent. I think there's validity to covering that. However, all this stuff is happening right out in the open and no one gives a damn. Do you see CNN out at that Newark water distribution site? No, because they weren't there. It's amazing to me. We were there. You know how many times we go cover things, and this has happened at the Young Turks and also Status Quo, and the only other media there is a foreign news crew? On Saturday, there was a French, I think they were documentary filmmakers from France covering this. There's no American media, no local media in New Jersey, and no national media. So we have such an opportunity to not only inform the masses that there's a crisis in America with water. It's not in Flint. only. It's not in Newark only. It's in Milwaukee, in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh, in East Chicago, Indiana, in North Carolina. There's parts of Massachusetts with dirty water. There's parts of New York City with water problems. Florida, California, Oregon. I mean, these are just the ones I know off the top of my head. Jordan, did TYT cover this? What do you think? Don't ask questions you already know the answer. So, Jordan, Aaron Mate scooped you on Biden's involvement with Ukraine. Listen, I'm working on a major story behind the scenes that for Status Coup members, sign up as a Status Coup member today, statuscoup.com/join. I did a video just for members last week with a little bit more information on this major story, but, you know, all I could say is Jen and I are working on a real... It's like it's like going after Moby Dick, so to speak, of investigative reporting behind the scenes. So I could only do so much. You know, doing a live stream every day, you got to prepare for the live stream. I'm researching, reporting, making calls all day on this one story. I'm probably going to have to travel this week or next week for this story. It's a big story. You'll see once it's published. But happy to be scooped by Aaron, who I like a lot. And I'm going to have Ben Norton on this week to talk about Trump pulling troops out of Syria. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. I'm not an expert on the Kurds and Syria and troops, so I'd rather have somebody on that is an expert rather than pretend to be one, which I'm not. So I'm going to have Ben Norton on this week. TYT does 2 hours of Trump coverage. I'm not going to dwell on TYT. You know my thoughts on TYT. But if you want more reporting from Newark and beyond, please, and thank you, Anonymous, for the $20 donation. Donate to this GoFundMe. We are less than $8,000 away from reaching our goal of $85,000. We are a small startup. We have the largest donation we got to this GoFundMe was $5,000 from a very generous viewer. Hint, he wasn't a banker. Hint, he wasn't an oil person. Hint, not from pharma, not from big pharma, not from Silicon Valley. He's just a viewer who did well and is progressive and gave us $5,000. He wanted to be anonymous. Other than that, it's been a couple $100 here and there, a lot of $5, $20, $15. It's been you, the viewers. And we have not had the money to advertise. We have not had the money to really push this other than while I'm live. So keep it coming. I know a lot of you are tapped out. You've donated once, twice, 10 times. So we get it. If you can't, we get it. If you just don't have the money. If you do have a couple bucks, pitch in. And if you ask me, well, what can I do if not GoFundMe? Our preference is for you to sign up as a Status Coup member. These stories are out there, and I am willing to make big sacrifices in my life. I've shown you that already. To be out with the people. To give a microphone back to people like Anthony, to give a microphone to people who don't have one in this corrupt corporate media, and frankly, who don't get one from supposedly independent media. We are the microphone for those people. I don't mean it arrogantly. I mean it because that's why we exist, to give a microphone to activists, to give a microphone to local community members that are being screwed by the vulture capitalists in the United Corporations of America. And you could be part of that revolution as cheap as $5 a month. We have plans at $5, $10, $20, and $179 annually. It makes all the difference in the world. Our goal is 1,000 members by the end of this year. So we got some work to do. But the beauty of membership is it keeps us truly independent. If we get up to a certain number of members, then we don't even have to worry about it. We just have the money and we go to cover the things we need to cover. We are not near that level yet, but we're getting there. So if you've been on the fence, if you want more reporting, whether it's with idiots at Trump stock or, victims of being poisoned by their government in places like Newark, sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Hopefully I get a good night's sleep and I don't get sick. I'm hoping. I'm just not feeling well the last day or two, but a good night's sleep will fix it. So I should be live tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you for watching. And remember, YouTube's not notifying anyone when our videos are up. So you can definitely remind yourself, put it in your phone, remind yourself. We start posting videos at around 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific, and we post videos usually with every hour and a half, 2 hours. So check back. If you're not notified, we still have videos. You're just not getting notified about them. So just keep checking back. Whatever site you check back constantly during the day, make Status Quo one of them on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Remember, most people are not lacking compassion in this country known as the United Corporations of America. Most people truly have no earthly idea what is happening all around them. Have a good night.